Yes, we've spent this morning praising God for what he's done, expressing our gratefulness. But I ask you this morning, are you feeling grateful? Do you feel grateful for what God has done? Is that truly reflective in your heart? Or right now, are those just words that are coming out instead? Is there something more that you want? Something that feels like your life is not enough yet? That you're incomplete? Something more you're waiting for? Are there problems you hope that God might fix? Or maybe someone else in the world might help to fix those problems you are facing, still waiting on? You see, our series of Ecclesiastes is trying to answer all those material problems under the sun, all those things in the world, in this present world, that we think will fix. Will wisdom fix it? He seems to say no. Will our quests for human justice and justice by human institutions fix it? No, it doesn't seem like they can ever truly fix any real problem. And so today in our passage, the writer of Ecclesiastes, Koheleth, has a problem. Can I find any meaning in my life through money, through wealth, through possessions? I think that one might strike particularly close to home for us. Because that's the quickest and the fastest way to meet any of the desires we have. Anything we feel incomplete or we're lacking in. Is just enough money going to make things enough for me? Let's see what the writer of Ecclesiastes says here this morning in chapter 5, starting verse 8. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor, the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter, for the high officials watched by higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. But this is gain for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. And what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Sweet is the sleep of the laborer, who whether he eats little or much, but the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. There is a grievous evil that I have seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt. And those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. When he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil that he may carry away in his hand. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go. What gain is there to him who toils for the wind? Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness and much vexation and sickness and anger. What I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun. A few days of his life God has given him, for this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and positions and power to enjoy them and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil. This is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God has kept him occupied with joy in his heart. There is an evil I have seen under the sun. It lies heavy on mankind. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all he desires. Yet God does not give him power to enjoy him, but a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity. It is a grievous evil. If a man fathers 100 children, lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, and his soul is not satisfied with life's good things, and he also has no burial, I say a stillborn child is better off than he. For it comes in vanity and goes in darkness, and in darkness its name is covered. But moreover, it has not seen the sun or known anything, yet finds rest rather than he. Even though he should live 1,000 years twice over, yet enjoy no good, it does not all go to one place. All the toil of man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. For what advantage has the wise man over the fool, and what does the poor man have who knows how to conduct himself before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the appetite. This also is vanity, and a striving after wind. Whatever has come to be has already been named, and what is known what man is, and that he is not able to dispute with one stronger than he. The more words, the more vanity, and what is vantage to man? For who knows what is good for a man while he lives the few days of his vain life, which he passes like a shadow? Who can tell what will be after him under the sun? This is the word of the Lord. So who here thinks they've got enough money? I mean, perhaps during this, previous time of giving, perhaps you pulled up your bank app and you looked down and saw your savings and thought, shoot, I think we're good. I'll give a little more to the church today. I'll call work tomorrow and say I'm not coming in. Why? I got enough. I don't need your money anymore. We're good. We're fine. I mean, that sounds great, right? I'm sure we don't like to do that right now. None of us really want to go to work tomorrow. And I can say that because I take Mondays to be with my family, so I'm already planning on just having time with family tomorrow, not going to work. I know we as people are quick to hear that cliche, right? Well, money can't buy you happiness. True, money can't buy us happiness, but if I steal $10,000 from your bank account, why would you be upset? It's not like I'm stealing your happiness, right? If money doesn't equal happiness, then why should we be upset if someone steals from us? So let us dispense. Let us move past the cliches about money and wealth. Yes, money does make us really happy. And money does make us feel quite safe. And money makes us feel secure. So I ask again, do you feel like you have enough? I'm sure all of us start to feel a little bit anxious with that question. With the what ifs. What if something happens where it won't be enough? What if it runs out? What if what I've invested in does not bring success but brings disaster? What if sickness comes upon me? I don't have the funds to provide. Money might not buy happiness per se, but it does bring a whole lot of other feelings with it. Does it bring solutions to our problems? Yes, that's where it is. Thank you. We're running the clicker up here. The problems that money brings, that first thing. Thank you, Connie. Woo! Not all the money in the world could have just made that appear in my hand. Case in point, right? Money itself will not only not fix your problems, it actually creates problems. It's the first thing that Koheleth talks about, that there are many problems that money brings in. But also, money as well cannot even bring satisfaction. Money completely fails in making us satisfied. Unless we can only depend instead on God granting that contentment, God bringing satisfaction, God bringing enjoyment. So let's first understand why just trying to get enough money will not fix problems, but create problems, the money problems that come along. First, he says in verse 11, he kind of lays out all these different problems. And the first one is that it brings more mouths to feed. Literally, he says, when goods increase, they increase who eat them. Literally, there are more mouths to feed. There are more people after going, okay, give me some of that. Give me a piece of that as well. Pay the accountant to help you manage all the money you've gotten now. Pay the lawyers you have in a retainer. Because now that you have a lot of money, a lot more people are going to come after that money in suits and suing you and trying to get the money from you. So you need to have a good law team under you. As now a lot of people are looking to you for all the wealth you have, you're probably a little bit concerned about your public image, right? Got to pay the public relations manager, pay the agent, pay the stylist. After all, if you're now living like the top 1%, you have to appear like you're part of the top 1% of people who own the money. It creates more problems in the fact that now there are more places that you are owed the money, and let's not even get taxes into the mix here. That just having money means there are more people who will demand it of you. So now that all these mouths are coming after you, all these people who are eating up your money, taking away the money as well that you have and all that great wealth, what it brings is a greater anxiety, a sleeplessness. He talks about the sweet sleep of a laborer who eats little or much, doesn't really matter, but the full stomach of the rich, the person whose funds are completely full and overflowing, is not able to sleep. Do you seriously think that men like Bezos and Gates and Musk don't think about their money? Do you think their minds at night just fall softly to sleep because they have no worries for all their money? And if we could get a report on brains, like we get a report on our phones of the screen time we've done and how much time we've spent on certain apps, If we get a map of our brains of how much time we've spent thinking about certain things, it'd be fascinating to see how much of their minds, and our minds as well, are spent thinking about numbers and dollar signs and wealth. The more money we have, the more concerned we are about it. No matter how much or little you really have, money is something that will always zap away the sleep you have. Instead, it provides more anxiety. Will not let your heart slow, will not let your mind be at peace. It creates restlessness and steals away your sleep for thinking of the numbers, the zeros, the decimal points. And lastly, for all those problems, it harms. It brings great hurt. It's a grievous evil that I've seen under heaven. Riches were kept by their owner to his own hurt, and the riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is a father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. He has nothing to take with him. He has nothing to give on to his son because he's lost it in whether it was gambling or investing. And he talks about how now, as he came into the world naked, he will then go into the grave naked. There is nothing we can take with us in our hand. As we die, our hands are empty. You cannot take it with you. The money will either, we hope, be able to be passed on to our descendants, or it will all dry up and nothing will be left. For we go into the grave naked without anything else left in our hands. If you need proof of this, of the tragedy and the loss of money, the problems that money creates, look no further than looking up stories of lottery and Powerball winners. They are not happy, feel-good stories. Most of the time, they're incredibly tragic and sad as you research stories of people who've won the lottery. Take the example of Jack Whitaker, who won a lump sum. He took the lump sum of $113 million in 2002. Now, how great would that be to wake up tomorrow and know that you've won $113 million? Wouldn't all your problems just vanish just like that? Well, maybe some of your worries would be, but for Jack Whitaker, his problems increased. After his passing in 2020, the New York Times wrote this obituary about him. Quote, he quickly fell victim to scandals, lawsuits, and personal setbacks as he endured constant requests for money, leaving him unable to trust others. He was often quoted as saying, he wished he had torn up the winning ticket. His wife left him. A friend of his drug-addicted granddaughter was found dead at his home in 2004. 3 months later, his 17-year-old granddaughter was gone too. His daughter, Ginger Whitaker Bragg, died of cancer in 2009 at 42. And in 2016, he lost a Virginia home to a fire. He struggled with drinking and gambling. His home and his car were repeatedly burglarized. In a 2007 interview with the Associated Press, Mr. Whitaker said he knew his legacy was already written. I am only going to be remembered as the lunatic who won the lottery. I'm not proud of that. I wanted to be remembered as someone who helped a lot of people. And I think that's what we would like to do, right? Make all of our problems go away and then give the rest of the money, help people. He is an example, a lesson for many of us. What the late American poet Christopher George Latour Wallace once wrote, it's like the more money we come across, the more problems we see. You've maybe heard those bars from the title of his song, Mo Money, Mo Problems, Biggie Smalls. That's one of the only times you'll hear me quoting 90s hip-hop, but it's so accurate, right? Mo money, mo problems. I thought about titling the sermon that. That's so accurate. As Jack Whitaker attests, as Notorious B.I.G. will tell us, the more money we come across, more problems we're going to see. In some ways, that's what I think the connection to those opening verses of 8 through 10, where he's still pondering these questions of injustice. There's so much injustice and oppression in the land, and what can we do about it? There's all these people who watch each other, of higher courts watching each other, and it's more that they take care of each other. They watch each other's backs instead of watching the backs of people who they oppress. Well, if you can't beat the people who oppress you, maybe join them. No, that doesn't seem to solve the problem either. He says in verse 18, it is good for us just to enjoy what we can. Find enjoyment in all of our toil, for that is our lot. So just enjoy what you have, right? Just be satisfied with the good things that God has given you, right? Well, Koheleth says that's actually a lot harder than it sounds. Satisfaction, enjoyment, being satisfied by wealth. You can have all the things you need so that all your problems seem to go away, but that's not a guarantee you actually get to enjoy them, right? A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so he lacks nothing at all he desires. But God does not give him the power to enjoy it, but a stranger enjoys them. It's vanity, a grievous evil. Koheleth seems to be sickened by the things he sees here. He's sick to his stomach about this. The great evil is that he doesn't get to enjoy them. There's no pleasure, no satisfaction, no hope for him, because God doesn't seem to give him that gift. Instead, for all that he has, if he's without satisfaction, he's like someone who's cash poor. If you're cash poor, it means your net worth is really high. You have all this money tied up in assets like real estate or investments that you can't really touch. You can't convert it to cash quickly because your money is put in other things that you can't just readily get for cash. So there's a whole lot you have, but nothing you can buy with it. That's what it means to not actually being able to have that gift of satisfaction, that gift of enjoyment. All these good, wonderful things in your life, they cannot answer the needs you have, cannot satisfy you. He goes on to say about this man who fathers 100 children and lives many years. So that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with life's good things, and he gets no burial. I say a stillborn child is better off than he. Again, as we saw last week, he says, in some ways, those who have not even been able to experience the terrible things in this world, but die too early or do not exist, in some ways are better off from the person who lives, as he says, 1,000 years twice over. Person who lives 2,000 years without satisfaction and enjoyment lives a miserable, awful, terrible couple millennia. That his experience is worse than the person who perishes before they leave the womb. And I just want to say as an aside, as bleak as that sound, I actually think we can take a little bit of comfort in these verses too, that if you've lost a child in the womb, if you've seen that loss, he's not being flippant here, because I think what's amazing is he is saying that even that child finds rest. He doesn't get into exactly what that means. The fact that there's rest that infant taken too early can experience. There's something that they're spared from. That there's a pain that they do not get to experience. And yet experience rest. The Lord knows. We don't understand those dark mysteries, those pains that we now have to experience. And yet God provides rest for his children. I think we can take comfort in that. We can bring comfort to others in that. That yet there is rest for those taken too early. The problem of trying to find satisfaction in this life from money is not just that what money fails to do, but it is in its basic form, our appetite is the problem. Our hunger is the problem. Our ever-wandering appetite. That for all the toil of man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. What advantage has the wise man over the fool? What does the poor man have who knows how to conduct himself before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering appetite. It also is a vanity and a striving after wind. The wandering appetite consumes, but is not full. It's a mouth, but the appetite is not full. A mouth without a stomach. Continue like those little Pac-Man, video game characters. Keep going, doesn't get full. Can keep going on and on and on. We were at a group of us were at the Epicnic. I can never remember which emphasis to put on the picnic at Epic. And they have all this great food, and there's kind of a question. Do you go through all the different tents and foods and get your plate filled up and then go sit down and eat? Or do what we did and just kind of go tent to tent to tent and just eating as we go? The nice thing about doing it that way is you don't know when you're getting full until you've gone to that last tent. You just let your appetite wander around wander around that area, continuing to eat. That's the problem with grazing and not just, limiting what you can do, because this is eventually your stomach gets full. But that's not the case with money. You can continue to wander around and the appetite doesn't grow full. It doesn't get satisfied. I think in some ways a way of illustrating this is something I remember when I was a little kid. About 9 or 10, I was at my local park, local playground. And I saw a child of maybe about 4, maybe 5, playing with his dad. And the 5-year-old child kept sliding down the slide, and when he'd get to the bottom, he would go, "One more time," and he'd run up the stairs and go slide down the slide. He'd get to the bottom and say to his father, "One more time," and he kept going, and there was this endless loop, and I had no idea if it would ever end. At age 10, I felt so sorry for that man, because I'm like, you're going to be stuck here forever. Because when you see that child continuing to say, "One more time," you realize that children's joys are inexhaustible. No, I read that wrong. Children are exhausting. Our appetites, our desires are like that child. Unsatisfied, unrelenting. One more time. Just one more. Just one more. Just one more. We never grow out of that. Yes, eventually we get bored with slides. They're a lot less fun than they were when we were 5. But what other endless slide loops are we on? Just one more. That small child stays within us. Even a old, grumpy, wealthy billionaire like John D. Rockefeller still had that child inside of him of greed and love for one more time. John D. Rockefeller, the American billionaire of the early 20th century, when you really consider about the wealth in the world and the wealth he had at the time, maybe one of the wealthiest men who ever lived, more than Solomon, more than anyone else. John D. Rockefeller was asked by a reporter, "How much is enough?" asking about his wealth and money. His answer, "Just a little bit more." How much is enough? Just a little bit more than what I have right now. Just a little bit more. That appetite for wealth, even from one of the wealthiest men who ever existed, still also said, "I'm not done. Just a little bit more." Yeah, we might not have that desire for wealth in us like John D. Rockefeller, but we're all hungry for something to satisfy us that's not quite been enough. What is your appetite today set on? What are you hungry for, starving for? For a new house, maybe. Well, eventually you're going to run out of space, or find that you need to update the whole kitchen, tear everything out because everything's out of date now. Just a little bit more, a little bit more. Clothes, styles change constantly, and yes, your body changes too. Things don't fit the same way. The fabric wears out. Stains that cannot be cleaned. You're going to need just a little bit more. The job, the status it gets you. Eventually, as you grow older, you're going to realize, I need to be in a different position, earning a little bit more. I need a little bit more respect. My name needs to get out there a little bit more. Relationships with others, even good and healthy ones, cannot satisfy the loneliness perhaps you feel inside. Or desire for pleasure, desire for sex. That itself fades away in time. It cannot fill our appetites for a relationship and leaves us just constantly seeking out just more, just more. If that is what your appetite is at, are you satisfied with what you hunger for? Have you had your fill? Or are you still that child crying out just a little bit more? Just one more time. If you're not satisfied now, when will you be? How much? You'll be up and down that slide, an unending loop, if you really think those things will bring you satisfaction, for they will not. That satisfaction is only a gift from God, is what Koheleth concludes here. How can we get enough? How can we be satisfied? Is it even possible in this life that for everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy him, to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil, this is the gift of God. The power to be satisfied, to find enjoyment is God's gift to us. Realize that so many products out there have on them a satisfaction guarantee, a satisfaction guarantee or your money back. If you're not satisfied, just send it back and we'll give you your money back. Just claim that it's not what you wanted. We guarantee you. But God has given us a different guarantee. As Phil Ryken quips in his commentary, satisfaction sold separately. Satisfaction not guaranteed. Satisfaction not included. For all these great things of wealth in our possessions, there's no guarantee they'll satisfy you. That power to be satisfied, that gift of satisfaction, is only what God grants and gives. And again, no surprise, Kohelet seems pretty pessimistic. Yeah, big surprise here, right? Because he seems to conclude in verses 10 to 12, what do we do? Well, we shouldn't question God. He's stronger than us. Okay? Essentially saying, just be quiet, don't complain. But Kohelet says it's God who gives that satisfaction and enjoyment. Don't we have a right to be upset then if God hasn't given it to us? That man, that tragic man who did not get the gift of satisfaction and lived a miserable 2,000 years. Shouldn't he have a right to complain? What is God's gift of satisfaction then? How do we get that? As James tells us, God gives generously to all for who ask. The gift of satisfaction is not just a feeling we're asking from God. The gift of satisfaction is his Son, Jesus Christ. That is the guarantee of satisfaction we have. What words can we add to what Jesus has done? What can we add to his perfect satisfaction, his perfect sacrifice? I tell you that if you have complaints about the way your life is heading, of what you lack, of the fact that you're still not satisfied, the appetite that's still going on inside you, let me tell you that Jesus answers, he puts to rest all of our complaints. Because he came into this world in human form. He understands our hunger as he fasted in the wilderness. Jesus felt lack of comfort, for he did not have money to his name. Jesus felt restless as he journeyed towards Jerusalem and towards the cross. Jesus felt anxiety and sleeplessness as he prayed in the garden, knowing that he was going to die for our unsatisfied, our sinful appetites. Jesus Christ came in human body and form to redeem our souls and our bodies as well, to redeem our spiritual and physical appetites. And Jesus' death satisfied the wrath of God for our sin. That Jesus, by taking on your sin, satisfied the penalty it deserved. So our spiritual desires, our needs may find their full satisfaction in him. How can we get that gift of enjoyment, that gift of satisfaction? Is by knowing that our souls are satisfied, are complete, our appetites are put to an end in Jesus. It's a great mystery, isn't it? As Jeremiah Burroughs wrote in his book, The Rare Jewel of Christian Contentment. I wanted to kind of go through this again as I was writing this. It was interesting. I was writing the sermon and I was coming to a great question. How does Jesus answer our problems of our discontentment? It's not an easy actual Sunday school answer. In some ways it's harder than it sounds, because if you believe in Jesus, you might still be unsatisfied in certain things. But what should we be dissatisfied with? Burroughs says that the great mystery of being a Christian is that we are simultaneously the most contented man in the world, yet the most unsatisfied with the world. That we are the most contented in the world, and yet the most unsatisfied with the world. Because Jesus is our portion and our prize. Jesus is the one who satisfies us and shows us that the world cannot satisfy anything we have. How do we know that this is a mystery? I just want to read from what he says here. That the men of the world seek after wealth and think, if I had thus much and thus much, then I would be content. They do not aim at great things, but if I had, perhaps some man thinks, only 200 or 300 more a year, then I should be well enough. If I had but 100 more a year, then I should be well enough. Or 1,000 a year, says another, then I should be satisfied. But a gracious heart says that if he had 100,000 times so much a year, it would not satisfy him. If he had the quintessence of all the excellences of all the creatures in the world, it could not satisfy him. And yet this man, this Christian man, can sing, be merry and joyful when he has only a crust of bread and a little water in the world. Surely religion is a great mystery. What is the mystery of our faith? Is that somehow we can know that this world is so unsatisfying and yet be so satisfied. Because this world is not everything. As Koheleth is so frustrated and so negative in this book of Ecclesiastes because he is showing that everything under this sun cannot satisfy, cannot restore. But if our eyes are cast to the Son of God, Jesus Christ, we do have full satisfaction and enjoyment. And so, enjoy the good things in this life. Enjoy them. We're right to have pleasure in the food we share after the service. Enjoy your Sabbath rest today, in prayer and reflection. Enjoy the excitement of a great trip to a new city, of exploring and having new experiences, of new music that excites your soul, of new clothes that are so well put together. But don't for a second imagine you'll be satisfied with them. It's only found in Jesus. I think honestly meditating on that, when you are enjoying something, when something has given you pleasure and excitement, temper your expectations with that wealth, those possessions, what they can actually deliver. That it is momentarily. Just pray, God, thank you for these moments of joy and enjoyment. Thank you for that gift right now. Because they cannot give me meaning and identity, but simply praying, Lord, show me the beauty of this moment. Because eventually, that great reward of enjoyment will dry up. Just like winning the lottery, as much as we would love tomorrow to know that we've won the lottery and have all these funds and all these possessions to our name now, we cannot take it with us in the grave. Naked we came to this world, naked we shall depart. We cannot take any of those wealth, any of those possessions with us into the next life. It all dries up, it all goes away. But the winnings from Christ is of a different matter altogether. The reward, the winnings of salvation and of Jesus' righteousness is something we do get to share with all who come by us. We impart that to the next generation. What humans pursue leads them to a sickening tragedy. But the only hope away from those sad tragedies of vain pursuits is the word of Christ that's never emptying, because it's more than enough. We do get to take it with us into the grave because it's what brings us out of the grave. We bring our hope of Jesus with us into the grave and out of it as well. It's how we are risen from the dead. It's how we can actually have enjoyment. That all things in this life, may they just point us to the satisfaction we have in Jesus Christ. Let us pray to him now.